Emily, Mommy still has some work to do, so you can practice piano here, Jennifer Wilson said softly, her voice carrying both warmth and fatigue. She placed a reassuring hand on her daughter's shoulder as she entered the final notes into a patient's medical file. The pediatric ward at Massachusetts General Hospital was quieting for the evening, its corridors filled with the hushed sounds of nurses making their last rounds. Next to the examination room was a modest break room. It wasn't much, just a small couch, a coffee machine, and a digital piano. The hospital had arranged for the piano as a thoughtful gesture, knowing that families often needed comfort in this place of constant worry. For Jennifer, it had become a small sanctuary for Emily. Emily nodded gently, as if to say she understood. She carefully unfolded her sheet music and placed it on the stand. The piece was the theme song from a well-loved animated film, one she had been practicing for weeks. In just a month, she was scheduled to perform it at her Aunt Rachel's wedding, a moment that both excited and scared her. Her small fingers hovered over the keys, trembling slightly before pressing down. The first notes emerged, soft and fragile, but quickly began to weave into a melody that filled the quiet room. Since her father's death 3 years earlier, Emily had grown more withdrawn, retreating into herself in ways Jennifer sometimes worried she couldn't reach. Yet, when Emily played music, it was as if the girl's heart finally spoke. The music carried all the words she never dared to say. Jennifer glanced up from her computer screen, her eyes softening as she watched Emily from behind. The little girl sat upright, brows knitted in concentration, her whole being absorbed in the notes. There was a maturity in her that felt far beyond her 8 years. Out the window, the Boston skyline was shifting, bathed in shades of orange and purple as twilight settled in. A knock on the door broke the calm. Sarah, the receptionist, leaned in. "Your mother is on the phone. About the wedding." Jennifer's hand stilled on the keyboard, her face tightened, though she quickly masked it. Rachel's wedding, 2 weeks away. Everything was supposed to be smooth, flawless. Family appearances were everything to her mother. "I understand," Jennifer murmured, reaching for the receiver. "Jennifer, you absolutely must come to the dress fitting tomorrow." Her mother's voice rang out, indulgent and commanding, laced with that familiar favoritism she always reserved for Rachel. Jennifer kept her tone even. "Yes, I'll bring Emily too." There was a pause, followed by a faintly disapproving sigh. "Oh, Emily too? But tomorrow will involve adult discussions." Jennifer's jaw tightened. "Mom, Emily is my daughter. We're coming together." Another pause, then a reluctant exhale. "All right, but don't upset Rachel. This is an important time for her." The line clicked. Jennifer sat still for a moment, her chest heavy. She turned back and found Emily's music had stopped. The child was watching her with wide, worried eyes. "It's all right," Jennifer said, forcing a smile as she crossed the room. "Tomorrow, we'll go look at some beautiful dresses together." Emily's tense face softened, and she nodded. Outside, the city sky had deepened into indigo. A lone seagull swept between skyscrapers, its wings glowing faintly in the last light of day. Tomorrow, Jennifer thought, the sun would rise clear. When they arrived at her parents' Beacon Hill townhouse the next day, the sight of a polished black luxury car already parked outside sent Jennifer's stomach sinking. Rachel's fiancé's parents, the Thompsons, were already there. "Emily, be a good girl today, okay?" Jennifer squeezed her daughter's hand gently as they approached the heavy wooden door. Inside, the house hummed with laughter. The drawing room spilled light and chatter as they stepped in. "Oh, Jennifer, Emily's with you too?" her mother, Martha, said in a tone of mild surprise. Rachel was perched on the velvet sofa, her smile radiant as she entertained Elizabeth and William Thompson, Boston elites with reputations gilded in philanthropy and cultural influence. Elizabeth's presence alone carried an air of prestige, her reputation for supporting children's education known across the city. "Jennifer, Emily, I'm so glad you came," Elizabeth said warmly, while William gave a dignified nod. "Big sister, look at this," Rachel interrupted, practically glowing as she spread wedding invitation samples across the coffee table. "They're lovely," Jennifer managed, her voice barely audible. She remembered too well how, 3 years ago, when her husband lay dying, Rachel hadn't once come to the hospital. 2 weeks after his funeral, She had thrown a glittering party. Their parents had excused it. She has her own way of grieving. Jennifer pulled Emily closer and sat down, her mother's voice sharp with command. Actually, I have a wonderful idea, Rachel said suddenly, her eyes bright with mischief. I'd like Emily to have a special role. Jennifer's spine stiffened. Something inside her warned, this would not end kindly. The Langham Hotel gleamed in the evening light 2 weeks later. Its Renaissance facade glowed gold as Jennifer and Emily walked toward its grand entrance. Emily looked like a doll in her soft pink dress, her tiny hand gripping her mother's firmly. Mom, do you think I can play the piano well enough? She whispered. Of course, sweetheart, Jennifer reassured her. You've practiced so hard. You'll be wonderful. Inside, chandeliers bathed the banquet hall in brilliance. White tablecloths, Lenox china, and extravagant floral arrangements made the room shimmer with wealth. Guests in tailored suits and gowns mingled, the very heart of Boston's high society. Jennifer, Emily, over here, Martha's voice called from the center, where a cluster of powerful figures stood. Harvard trustees, orchestra patrons, museum board members, all chatting, laughing, sipping champagne. Rachel, glowing in her wedding gown, glided over. Triumph shone in her eyes. Oh, Emily dear, did you find your place card? Jennifer turned sharply. The tables glittered with carefully arranged place settings. Emily spotted her card, picked it up, and froze. Her little voice quivered. Mom, what's this? The card read in elegant script, Children's Server. Oh, there are special servers for children, so use them plenty, Rachel chimed, her laughter slicing through the air like a blade. Around the room, chuckles rippled. Even their parents laughed. Jennifer saw Emily's eyes fill with tears. Large drops rolled down her cheeks, staining the pink fabric of her dress. We're leaving, Jennifer said, her voice calm but firm, vibrating with finality. What, sister? The ceremony is about to. Jennifer's glare silenced Rachel. You planned to humiliate my daughter, to make her your spectacle? This is traditional, Rachel tried. Traditional? Where is it traditional to degrade a child? The room froze. Elizabeth Thompson stood, her face troubled, William's brows furrowed in deep disapproval. The laughter died. Jennifer, calm down, Martha hissed, rushing forward. Are you trying to ruin the wedding? Jennifer's reply was a bitter, quiet mockery. You worry about your perfect wedding while trampling my daughter's dignity. Emily clutched at her mother's dress, trembling. Jennifer bent and whispered, Don't worry, baby, Mom's here. Then, straightening, she took Emily's hand and walked out, her steps deliberate, proud, unyielding. Behind them, Rachel's wail broke into sobs. The murmurs of scandalized guests filled the hall. In the elevator's mirrored walls, Jennifer and Emily's reflections appeared small but unbroken. Emily whispered through tears, Mom, I'm sorry. Jennifer pulled her close. You have nothing to apologize for. You did nothing wrong. Mom will always protect you. The elevator descended slowly, carrying them away from the glittering hall above. Their reflection looked sad, yet dignified, stronger than anyone in that room would ever understand. Continuously, Rachel's name flashed on Jennifer's phone, vibrating in her handbag. She didn't bother to look. She didn't need to. She knew what the calls were about. Outside the Langham's grand entrance, the cold autumn wind bit at their faces. Emily shivered, her small fingers clinging tightly to her mother's coat. Let's get a taxi, Jennifer said, raising her hand to hail one. But before the cab could stop, hurried footsteps echoed across the marble steps. Jennifer, wait. Jennifer turned, startled, to see Elizabeth Thompson rushing toward them. Her usually composed face was flushed, her chest heaving from the effort. Despite her breathlessness, her eyes radiated urgency and something else, deep, almost maternal concern. We need to talk, Elizabeth said firmly. Please, come to our house. Jennifer hesitated, drawing Emily closer. Elizabeth's voice softened. I'll send the car. William will meet us there. Just give me a chance to make this right. Almost at once, Elizabeth lifted her phone and gave instructions. A sleek black Bentley rolled to a smooth stop in front of the hotel. The driver stepped out, bowing slightly as he opened the door. Emily glanced up at her mother. uncertainty written all over her face. Jennifer nodded gently, and together they climbed in. The Thompson mansion in Beacon Hill loomed tall and dignified, its windows glowing softly against the darkening sky. As the gates swung open, the perfectly manicured gardens stretched on either side, shadows cast long by the lanterns lining the driveway. Inside, warmth greeted them, firelight flickered across polished wood floors and portraits of stern-faced ancestors. "Emily, sweetheart, you can rest in the library," Elizabeth said kindly. "James will bring you cocoa." Though still tense, Emily nodded and allowed the butler to guide her away. Jennifer's gaze followed her daughter until she disappeared behind the carved wooden door. Elizabeth gestured toward the drawing room, where a fire crackled beneath an imposing mantel. She turned to Jennifer, her voice grave. "First, I want to apologize. Rachel's behavior tonight, it was disgraceful. On behalf of my family, I am truly sorry." Jennifer's lips pressed into a thin line. Before she could respond, the front door burst open. Rachel stumbled in, her wedding gown rumpled, mascara streaked down her face. Her desperation filled the air. "Please, Jennifer, please come back. Don't ruin this day." Elizabeth's expression sharpened. "Rachel, do you have any idea what you've done?" Rachel's voice cracked. "It was just a tradition." Elizabeth cut her off, her words as cold as steel. "The Thompson tradition is dignity, especially for children. Tonight, you forgot that." Rachel paled, her bravado crumbling. Footsteps echoed again, slower, heavier. William Thompson entered, his presence commanding silence, his eyes fixed on Rachel. "Sit." Rachel obeyed instantly, hands trembling in her lap. William turned to Jennifer. His voice carried both apology and authority. "Tonight was a disgrace. Your daughter was treated cruelly, and that is unforgivable. But your courage reminded us what truly matters, protecting the dignity of children." Just then, faint music floated into the room. Everyone stilled. From the library, Emily's piano began to play, the piece she had prepared for the wedding. The soft, fragile notes carried through the halls like a prayer, each sound heavy with emotion. Rachel's shoulders shook. Tears welled anew, not of pride but of shame. She looked toward the sound of her niece's music. "Sister, Emily, I'm so sorry." Her voice cracked. She slid off her chair, kneeling at Jennifer's feet. "I wasn't thinking. I only cared about appearances. I forgot Emily was a child with feelings. I forgot what family should mean." Jennifer's jaw softened, though her eyes remained wary. Elizabeth placed a hand on Rachel's shoulder. "Then prove it. Show us you've changed." Rachel nodded vigorously. "I will. I'll volunteer at Jennifer's hospital. I'll learn what it means to respect children. 6 months, a year, whatever it takes." Jennifer exhaled slowly. She spoke clearly, her voice steady as iron. "I have conditions. Emily must be treated with the same dignity as any adult, and Rachel must dedicate herself to children's welfare, not just as penance but as purpose." Elizabeth smiled faintly. "That sounds fair." William nodded once. "I'll explain to the guests. If we must postpone, we will. Family comes first." The final phrase of Emily's music echoed through the house. For the first time that night, Jennifer felt the faint stirrings of hope. 3 days later, the Langhams' banquet hall shone with warmth. This time, the seating chart had been transformed. Children sat alongside adults, their names etched in identical golden script. Backstage, Emily stood in a sky-blue dress, her fingers brushing the keys of the grand piano. Jennifer knelt beside her, straightening the hem. "Mom, I'm nervous," Emily whispered. Jennifer kissed her forehead. "That means you care. You'll be wonderful." The door opened gently. Rachel entered, her wedding dress pristine once again, her face calmer, humbler. "Emily," she said softly, kneeling before her niece, "I'm sorry for what I did. I've started volunteering, and I want to learn more every day. But for now, will you share your gift with us?" Emily studied her aunt for a moment, then smiled. "Okay, but only if you promise to listen carefully." "I promise," Rachel whispered, tears in her eyes. Moments later, the hall hushed as Emily took her place at the piano. The spotlight fell on her small frame, and her music filled the air. The melody told of loss, healing, and renewal. Guests listened in silence, many wiping away tears. When the final note lingered and fell, the hall erupted in applause. Rachel took the microphone, her voice trembling. "The other day, I hurt someone I love deeply, but tonight, my niece reminded me what family truly means: respect, dignity, and love. Protecting children isn't optional, it is our greatest duty." Emily smiled shyly as Rachel bowed to her. That night, laughter and conversation flowed freely. Children clinked glasses with adults, sharing cake and stories. For once, there was no hierarchy, only family. Christmas Eve, 2 months later. Snow dusted the windows of the Thompson mansion. A Christmas tree glittered in the corner, its ornaments glowing in firelight. "Emily, move that ornament just a little to the right," Elizabeth suggested warmly. Emily giggled, adjusting it carefully. "Like this?" "Perfect," Elizabeth beamed. Rachel emerged from the kitchen, carrying a tray of cookies baked with the children at the hospital. "They're fresh from the oven." Jennifer looked at her sister. The arrogance was gone. In its place was compassion, even joy. 6 months of volunteering had reshaped her. She was even studying music therapy now, inspired by Emily's playing. "Emily, will you perform with me at the children's concert next week?" Rachel asked hopefully. Emily's face lit up. "Yes, I even wrote a new song for the kids." Elizabeth clapped her hands together. "Splendid, Emily. I'd love to include your music in our foundations program." Jennifer watched quietly, her heart full. The wedding disaster had nearly broken them, but instead, it had forged something new, stronger, real. Snowflakes swirled outside as Emily's carol filled the room. Around the fire, the family gathered, not perfect, not flawless, but finally united. Sometimes, Jennifer thought, the worst nights can give birth to the brightest dawns. And tonight, under the glow of the Christmas tree, their family's new story was only just beginning.